Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we talk to growers from across the greenhouse industry about market trends, innovation, their biggest challenges and opportunities, and more. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. The current chaos around the nation's immigration policy is creating high levels of uncertainty for employees and employers alike. The green industry relies on immigrant labor to fill critical roles responsible for planting, growing, cultivating, harvesting, packaging, and shipping plant products to clients and customers alike. Many of the supporting inputs, tools, and services to the industry also rely on this labor force. With all the uncertainty, what should employers do? In this episode of Greenhouse Grower to Grower, we talk to Michael Maggiotto, Director of Human Resource Solutions at Best Human Capital and Advisory Group, about how you can take care of your people first and your business second, as well as the questions you need to ask yourself when it comes to employee documentation. Here's our conversation. So, Michael, we've seen a lot of things happening here just within the first couple of weeks of the Trump administration moving forward quickly on things. The big thing that we've talked about recently is, or one of the big things I should say, is your current or grower's current labor pool, how they source labor, how they work with their labor, and how that could be affected by some of the changes that are taking place right now. So let's really jump into that and get your perspective on, I know we want to talk about, how you work with your team first and then with your business. So if you can kind of start with just an overview of some of the big things that you're hearing right now as you talk to growers in the industry, as you talk to others in the industry, what are the big concerns that you're hearing right off the bat?
Absolutely. Thank you. So labor has been a pain point for businesses forever. There was a time during the Great Recession when there seemed to be a lot of labor. And then as we came out of that Great Recession, labor started getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And since 2017, it has been an incredibly tight market for labor. During the pandemic, we saw a shift and adjustment there, but it was a brief spike in moment in time. And since we've recovered, again, labor has been incredibly tight. And it just seems to be the going thing. There's a lot of different reasons of why the labor is as tight as it is. But with the current deportation crisis that's going on, it's going to have an incredibly huge impact on many different industries, but absolutely the agriculture and horticulture subsector specifically. We do rely a lot on migrant and immigrant workforces. There's a lot of H-2A, H-2B visa sponsored candidates and employees in the workforce. There are, in many cases, some clearly undocumented workers. Some people are going through legal processes to adjust their situations, and some aren't. There's a big risk in our industry, and we need to make certain that we're doing the right things in kind of that two-pronged approach. First prong being take care of your people first. Take care of your people, and your people will take care of your business. The second thing is make sure that you're focused on taking care of your business. And there's a whole slew of compliance things that you need to be doing to ensure that you are taking care of your business and prepared.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that people portion first. There's a lot of preparation and a lot of communication that you have to have with your team to make sure that, given what's happening today, that, they're not caught off guard by anything. They're prepared and they're comfortable and confident in their work environment as well. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. The first approach I would highly recommend is stay close to your people. Okay. You don't know as a business owner, business leader, we don't know what we don't know about the needs of our people until you open up your mouth and ask.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest, most important thing that we start doing. Many times employees will be very worried and concerned if they get called into so-and-so's office to sit down and talk with an office manager or the owner of the company. You want to create a comfortable environment, one that encourages open and honest dialogue between you and your employees.
Sure.
And so what that may mean is simply going on out to where they are working. It could be out in the field, it could be out in a greenhouse, it could be out in a warehouse, it could be wherever it is that they are working. Certainly pulling them aside and having a brief conversation, but in a comfortable setting. Sit down together on a bench or, take a brief walk or stroll around the property a little bit, where you can have some private and confidential conversations so they don't feel self-conscious with people, looking over their shoulder, but also where you can make them feel pretty comfortable about opening up to you as well and that they don't feel like they're in trouble or anything like that. You need to understand kind of what they're feeling, what they're thinking, where their minds are. Many many people will have this deer in headlights kind of look to them. They're not sure what should they do, how should they do it, what resources are available, and so that's kind of the impetus for your dialogue and trying to understand where they are, what their needs are before you can even begin to solve or support any of their challenges.
Sure.
Um, we are hearing a lot of different needs from different constituents out there.
Okay.
Some common things that we're hearing include how do I go about getting a passport? There are migrants many people who um, are part of marginalized groups who uh, are citizens of the United States, but they're fearful because maybe they are first generation born in the U.S. Maybe they have just recently gotten their citizenship. Maybe they are in some kind of a green card status. If they have a U.S. passport, then that's going to be probably the single most important document that can help ICE, you know, leave them alone and move on somewhere else. Okay.
Sure.
So helping those people get their passports and have that document on them on a regular basis is an enormous thing that is being asked of employers. What resources? Where do I go? What do I do? And that's a simple thing. It doesn't mean you as the employer have to do it for them, but it's a pretty simple thing to put together the quick resource and help ease that worry and that concern. Some things we're hearing about are how are we going to take care of our children? How are we going to take care of making sure our pay is taken care of? How are we going to make certain that I have legal support if I'm here legally, even if it's in an immigrant status, and so that there's not a mistake and I end up getting deported improperly? There's a lot of things, a lot of worries and concerns like that are going through the minds of many people in this workforce.
Okay. Okay. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the second key area, and that's preparing your business. And I know you and I had a call prior to this conversation we're having now, where we talked a lot about the importance of record keeping and documentation. I know that goes a long way. Can you dig into that a little bit?
Absolutely. The probably the single biggest record keeping area to focus on immediately. There are others that we still need to focus on tangentially, but this is the immediate need is your I-9 documentation.
Okay.
The I-9 form really seems like it's straightforward. It's pretty simple. And so not enough attention is always placed on the I-9 form as probably likely should. Mistakes abound when filling out your I-9 forms. Um, just the simple forgetting to check a box,
Sure.
okay, can cost thousands of dollars per occurrence when it happens. And so it's very critically important that we make certain that we audit our I-9s. Not everybody knows what to look for. And so maybe it's important that you reach out and contract with a third party resource to come in and do your I-9 audits for you to make sure and validate that you're doing the right things. When you have a third party source come in and do it, that's a great sign where even if violations occur, you can demonstrate that you're taking that extra step to try your best to comply with the law. And while it may not necessarily absolve you of any fee, fine, or government imposed penalty, what it may do is help reduce those and buy you time to get compliant and get into compliance. So it's always very good to have someone else come in and help work through and do that audit for you. It's important to understand too that I-9 audits have been ratcheting up significantly. According to a recent Society for Human Resource Management article, I-9 audits have increased from about 1,360 in fiscal year 2017 to nearly 6,000 in 2018. And as much as 15,000 audits were planned in 2020 before COVID-19 hit. As you can tell, much of that increase was under the first Trump administration. And so you can see that that's likely going to be increasing in the current administration as well. So making certain that you have your house in order with regards to your I-9s is critically important. There are very steep penalties for this as well. Companies, and I'm quoting a little bit, I'm going to read a little bit right from that article from Society of Human Resource Management.
Yeah.
Companies can accumulate hefty fines with penalties as high as $2,789 per violation, and up to more than $27,000 for knowingly employing an unauthorized worker. Even worse, you can find HR managers or even business owners can face up to 10 years in prison and fines of up to $250,000 for actions considered harboring undocumented workers.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at potential jail time and hefty dollar fee fines such as this, making certain that you have your record keeping in order, done properly, is one of the most critical things to do. Part of that is record retention.
Mhm.
Many of our business leaders, and I've seen this in many of the businesses where I've gone on site to and worked directly with, many of our business leaders keep records almost permanently from day one of the launch of their business. And they could be in their second or third generation, and they've got 2 to 3 generations of papers in bankers' boxes, in storage cabinets, in all kinds of places, all with the purposeful intent of, I might need that at some point in time.
Yeah.
Just understand a record retained is a record available during a government audit. It doesn't matter that the record retention requirement might be 3 years after the date of hire or 1 year after the date of termination, regardless of, or whichever is the longest.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've retained it for 15 years after the person's been terminated, and there are mistakes in that particular form, and that form is uncovered during the audit, you are liable for the penalty there as well.
Okay.
So making sure you destroy documents properly after the record retention time frame is gone is just as critical as making sure that you have retained them for the time frame that they are required as well.
Okay.
You don't have the document when they come in. The assumption is you never did it to begin with, and you have no evidence to validate that that is not true. Therefore, you're going to suffer the penalty.
Okay. Okay. So what kind of what you're saying is to work within that time frame, but really only that time frame then is the most critical part.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. This is such a complex and, certainly ever evolving, ever changing issue. It just in these past couple of weeks, there seems to be so much confusion and, a step forward here and then a retraction or a step back there. How is your team? Because I know you guys are heavily focused on this at Best Human Capital. How are you focused on tracking what's happening now, navigating through some of the legality issues, and I guess most importantly, knowing what's real and what's not, I guess is the best way to say it. I mean, what's because there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. How are you guys kind of navigating through all that?
Wonderful question. And that is really about curating credible sources of information. You're not going to find much credible information on most of your social media. I know that's where a lot of us tend to live nowadays,
Sure.
but social media is just not going to be a credible source. You do have to go out to credible sources, and you need to learn. You need to validate the credibility of those resources. Some very important, fairly credible resources start with our trade associations. Okay, they many of them. and I'm just going to call out the American Horticulture Association as one, has a strong advocacy arm to them. And because they are working so closely to help advance the legal environment favorably for our industry, they're an incredibly good resource to tap. Many states have their own horticulture, agriculture, trade associations as well. They may also be very good resources of information.
Yeah.
But then sticking to the very well-known, very proven, and long-standing, credible resources of major news networks, of, specific well-known national law firms,
Sure.
are great ways of dialing in. And of course, professional associations that geared towards human resources, such as the Society for Human Resource Management, is an excellent resource of information as well. Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, has its own very strong advocacy arm that helps to advocate for both employers and workers, finding that nice balance in Washington and at state levels as well. So these are all credible resources that I would recommend listening into. We are dialed into these very, very deeply. I attend webinars and training sessions almost weekly, it seems sometimes, as part of my regular work that I do with Best Human Capital Advisory Group, just to make certain that I'm staying on top of these issues, and that includes immigration and labor law sessions and seminars, just to make sure that I'm staying ahead of the curve here as best I can.
Okay. You brought up a good point there when you talked about, what American Horde is doing and then also what some of the state associations are doing. Are you seeing anything in terms of what's happening nationally versus at the statewide level? And, if you live in a particular state where some of the rules and regulations there might differ from what happens nationally, have you seen much of that at all?
So that's a great question. The nationally, the American Horticulture Association just put out a really nice, quick, bullet pointed list of recommendations. You can find it on one of the most recent emails, the blasts that went out. I have to go to this. Literally just happened this week, so I have not gone to their website yet just to see if they've posted it up there. I've been fielding a lot of calls and working directly with clients on key issues as well. So that's on my agenda to do actually later today. But I'm very confident they're going to have that right out there on their websites. You're going to have to double check each of the different state websites as well. It is really important to understand too that while there is a national drive to do certain things, we have our we're very we have a very interesting country where we have a two-layered system. We have a federal layer, but then we have 50 different state layers. And while there's a lot that can be done or is being done at a federal level, sometimes that conflicts with what's available at the state level.
Right.
And you do have to comply to the best of your ability with both. And that does make it a little challenging. But it's also very important to understand that sometimes some of the actions that are being taken, there are still federal level laws and state level laws that are on the books. And sometimes what we're hearing and seeing is a conflict. I can't tell you which way to go or what way not to do, but I can always tell you that, like it or not, compliance with the law is your best avenue for reducing your risk level.
Mhm.
Let the lawyers work out the legal issues in the courts and do all their things.
Yeah.
But if you're following the letters of the law, if you're doing what the law says, no matter who's talking about what, where, when, why, or how, under most normal circumstances, you're going to find that you are doing the best you can to protect your business, to protect your people.
Right.
When all is said and done, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your business. And if you're both working together to take care of your business, you're going to weather the storm.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. There's another thing that we were talking about prior to this conversation, and that's, you may be a grower where you've already had, ice come to your operation. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be the only time they're going to visit. That doesn't necessarily mean that other organizations might not also come as well. Can you kind of talk about that, how to be prepared for what those next steps might be?
Fantastic. And that's also one of the reasons why the immediate issue I addressed was your I-9 record keeping,
Yeah.
but all other record keeping is also going to be critically important to follow pretty quickly after that. So buttoning up those things is pretty important. It's very interesting. In all my years, I see this happen quite often. If one alphabet soup of government agencies gets into your business, how many others tend to follow pretty quickly thereafter?
Yeah.
So you get knocked on the door by ICE. At some point in time, the wage and hour division of the Department of Labor is going to be knocking on your door. And then somehow it seems like the EEOC might be knocking on your door, or all of a sudden OSHA's showing up as well. It's just interesting to see how that kind of thing tends to flow. Each of these different government agencies has a variety of different records, business records that are important to retain for different durations and different reasons, and even in different ways. Segregating information for compartmentalization, different durations of time that each one needs to be held, and so it's very, very important that you audit your business.
Mhm.
It's very interesting how businesses will almost annually do a financial audit, working very closely with their CPAs to make sure that all of their financials are in place. But the one area of greatest risk that most businesses don't focus heavily enough on is auditing the people side of their business.
Okay.
Okay. And so that's where some of your greatest risks tend to come from. Why? Because people are your most important asset, and people do the actions and activities of managing and running your business every day. So
Yeah.
if you're going to audit your financials, audit the human capital side of your business as well. That should be done probably annually or biannually, every 2 years ish, on a regular cycle as well, just to make sure that you're staying compliant and make sure that your risks are reduced and things are moving in the direction you want it to.
Okay. There's another thing that I do wonder about sometimes, and that's, how a growing operation can work in their local community to build connections and honestly to build trust sometimes, because we've seen, it doesn't necessarily have to be, an immigration official coming to your door. We've seen headlines. We've talked to growers who have had folks in their community come out and protest for the wrong reasons, and share a lot of misinformation. And those folks that we talk to, without naming any names, obviously, talk about, what they try and do is really build those connections and that support within the local community so that, they don't have to deal with it as much. Is there anything that you see in that area at all?
That's a good question too. And my recommendation is absolutely be active and social within your community. There's a variety of different reasons you're going to want to do it. First and foremost, you being present in your community is a way of making sure your business is visible to those who might want to shop or buy or work with your business in some way, shape, or form. So there's an obvious business networking reason to get out there and do that. You also end up finding that you gain very interesting business intelligence by having conversations with people that can affect these strategies you deploy to
Yeah.
help grow and advance your business. There's also a third reason. Getting out into the communities and meeting with other business organizations, and even reaching out to and building a relationship with some of your government agencies in your
Mhm.
area, which sounds kind of counterintuitive since many of us are, especially now, are pretty fearful of, I don't want them coming in and auditing me.
Yeah.
But you got to understand that as much as there's always that fear that the IRS or the OSHA or EEOC or Department of Labor is going to come in and audit me, and I don't want to give away the farm and make them think anything suspicious.
Right.
You got to remember that these organizations are actually there to help your business.
Yeah.
They're not there specifically to be a punitive arm. They have that mandate, that responsibility to correct mistakes and issues that are going on.
Yeah.
But the more proactive you are as a business leader by going out and just picking the phone and say, hey, look, I got this new piece of equipment and I know there should probably be some training or some things that should be done. Can you help me understand some OSHA compliance that I might need to really think about as I'm rolling this out to my people so I'm prepared and I'm doing the right things. Having conversations of even that level with some of your local OSHA offices, and if your state is not an OSHA state, and doesn't have its own state OSHA department, you fall then under the federal OSHA department, and reaching out to the federal level as well. There are people who are more than happy to say, "Hey, no worries. Let's talk about what your needs are and understand a little bit." That's not them gathering information and going, "Put them on the list to get audited." That's
Yeah.
that's that's actually them recognizing this is a business leader who is trying to comply to the best of their ability. Most government agencies and leaders in those agencies understand, look, you might be absolutely amazing as an entrepreneur and business owner in the niche that your business specializes in. But that doesn't mean you know everything about business. And we know you're going to make mistakes. Thank you for calling us and
Yeah.
letting us help you avoid making those mistakes. That's kind of the way they look at it. So
Yeah.
it is important to build those relationships in your community with other business leaders, with potential and prospective customers, but also with the other businesses and government agencies in your area. You're going to really find that benefits your business in the long run.
Yeah. As we're having this conversations, there's two things that I'm thinking of where, if you walk away with a couple of really strong take home messages from this. One, I think, is, and again, this is something that we talked about prior to this conversation, is this is not a temporary concern. This is going to be a long-term issue, long-term concern, certainly over these next 4 years. How do you keep this front and center with, as if you're a grower trying to, stay on top of your day to day, running the greenhouse business, working with your team, especially with the seasonality of this industry, how do you keep this front and center at all times?
So probably there's a variety of ways you can keep it front and center. And one of the mantras of business leadership that many of us have probably heard early on in our careers, probably trumpeted ourselves for quite some time, and then most commonly is fallen off. Inspect what you expect. And so if you expect your people to be doing the right things for your business, then you need to inspect the right things for your business. Priorities of your business will change as your business strategy changes. Okay. And so you need to constantly audit and investigate and learn, are the things that need to be done to advance my business's strategy being done? It's not always on the financial side. There are human beings involved in your business, and you need to inspect what you expect out of the people of your business as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes that means you need to set some expectations. It's okay and very much and very important as a business leader to understand you don't know everything. And it's okay if you don't know everything. Don't be fearful to ask for help. Too often, especially for very early stage business leaders, early stage business owners, brand new entrepreneurs, it's very easy for them to take on the mindset of, I have to know everything, but you don't. That's why you hire other people. Right? It's okay not to know everything about every aspect of your business. If you have someone in your business who knows that area, then you can go to them when you need to know something and get that information from them. Just don't be afraid to do that. Bring in the knowledge, bring in the talent to your business to help handle all these different areas. And some of that also means don't hesitate to reach out to specialists, to consultants, to vendors for additional types of support for your business.
Yeah.
Audit your financials, audit your human capital as well.
Well, and to your point there, I mean, your team has a lot of knowledge in this area. What can somebody in this industry do when it comes to connecting with you or your offices to learn more, to prepare more?
Great question. We are members of the American Horticulture Association. We travel to trade shows all the time from TPIE and MANTS, FNGLA, and Cultivate, just to name a few. So we're very present, very active. Sometimes we're providing learning seminars. Sometimes we're walking up and down the trade show floors, introducing ourselves and meeting people directly. If you see us at any of these shows, please let's take some time to talk. Maybe you don't have an immediate need. Maybe you don't even have an immediate question, but we would love to get to know you and your business and make sure that you understand we're here as a resource. We are more than happy to provide support. If you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can also reach out to us directly through our website, bhcagroup.com, and or connect with us on LinkedIn. We're very active in a variety of different venues such as that. But we're absolutely happy to have that conversation. This industry is so wonderful because the people are fantastic. They wear their hearts on their sleeves so much. They truly care about the people, the products. It's probably one of the most positive and uplifting industries to work in, and so we're super excited to be part of it. And this industry is all about building relationships. So just reach out. We're more than happy to have that conversation with you.
Okay. What's the final one key takeaway from all of this? If there's one piece of advice that you could give to somebody listening to this right now, what's the one thing that they need to know right now at this moment?
Compliance. It's a word we all go "Ugh," on, and I get it, but we would so much rather bury our heads in our plants and trees and shrubs and grow things and I get that because trust me, the products are amazing and beautiful. But compliance, we can't forget that we run businesses and
Yeah.
we have to take care of our people. We have to take care of our financials. And the only way for our business to continue to exist, to provide for the people who depend upon us, to enjoy the products that we're making. Okay. The only way we can continue to do this long term,
Yeah.
okay, have something amazing to pass on to generations to come
Right.
is compliance. And
Yeah.
so just, we got to do it.
Well, and I love your point there because I mean it is true. I mean, it's easy to, if I'm a grower, I'm looking at here's the new plants that are out there, here's the new technology that's out there. But if you don't address topics or concerns or issues like this, that new technology, those new plants aren't going to matter if you're not prepared business wise for what's to come in the future.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about like a new technology because that is something that is happening in our industry. It's so super fast. It's happening in every industry. Let's be honest, okay?
Yeah.
But we're really seeing some incredible advancements in technology, from research and development of new types of plants, to just methodologies and tools and equipment and AI coming in and automation coming in to our industry. It's such a rapid pace. Some of that is actually wonderful because with the labor environment as tight as it is currently, and with it likely going to get even tighter, okay,
Yeah.
introducing the right kinds of automation is going to be important. But there are some compliance things that you need to take care of. Compliance around training and development of your people, around protecting your people by following OSHA requirements, teaching them things like lockout, tagout procedures and spill procedures for fuels and oils and other kinds of things that many of us are like, well, we got this new piece of equipment. Let's just get it out there, deploy it, and let's make sure that we can get the stuff growing. Yes, that's the ultimate goal that you want, but there's also a lot of other things under the hood that we got to take care of, and our people need to be ready to be able to do that. And so there's all kinds of things that we need to think about and take care of. And honestly, that also goes back to compliance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we were able to have this conversation, Michael. This is, probably the number one thing that should be on everybody's radar right now. And, this is certainly not the end of the conversation either. Let's make sure to stay connected, with you and your whole team. And as you guys are hearing things, let us know so we can let the industry know. But really glad to be able to catch up with you today.
Absolutely. It was fantastic having the conversation with you too, Brian. This is a very deep and robust topic and one that I know is going to be talked about for some time to come. So we're here anytime you want to continue the conversation.
Thanks for joining us. You can learn more at greenhousegrower.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, and please leave us a rating as it helps other podcast listeners find the show.